I think of it like a fire. Like you really don't want to you don't want to try to burn a log. What you want to try to burn is, something kind of small and make the fire really hot, then add gradually larger pieces of wood.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how you get to a huge bonfire that is X or whatever. Yeah, so that's kind of the approach you take to build a network effect. Is you don't start like wide, you start deep. And so we're starting deep with Bitcoin stuff, and hopefully we'll be able to expand out.
Dude, I'm excited.
Oh, good.
Stacker News 177. Convos in the Pedicab. Keyan, what's your last name? Or you don't care?
I don't care. No one cares.
No one cares what your last name. But you're the founder of a company called Stacker News.
It's
right. Like the Bitcoiners equivalent to Reddit.
Sort of, yeah.
Tell us about this company a little bit.
Well, it's like Reddit, but instead of upvotes, it uses Bitcoin. So online communities have a bunch of problems with them, and we try to use economics to solve it, and we use Bitcoin as the currency in the economy.
I really like this model. I'm a Stacker News user. I think it incentivizes the right kind of content to be produced, whereas the problem that you see on X and Facebook and Instagram and Reddit and everything else, it's more about you get rewarded for how much you produce and how much engagement farming you get. So you'll produce things that offer no value that just generate engagement that's like useless and get people to talk into a circle, whereas your platform, you just get rewarded with like if you post something worthwhile, people will just send you a small amount of Bitcoin through Lightning as a way to encourage you to produce more content. I really like this approach.
Yeah. I think other platforms, most of the value that people get from them happens off the platform. And so it's constantly an attempt to pull you to some other website or something where they can try to get money from you. So it's where like real economy exists. But on Stacker News, there is an economy. So it kind of all happens in line, which is nice. But
and your data is not getting harvested, right? Like these other companies.
No, that's one of the benefits of using money to determine information quality, and using money in other ways is that we don't rely on doing tons of like tracking and stuff to try to figure out if someone's genuine, if their intent is real, because that's like where a lot of the data tracking begins on a platform like Reddit. Is they're like, are you creating sock puppet accounts to upvote your own content? But we can just use money, and if you want to upvote your own content, you can. It'll just cost you more money,
which is a stupid thing to do. It doesn't do anything.
Yeah, well, it doesn't do anything. I mean, we have on our platform, it costs you money to upvote your own content. Additionally, it takes time to be able to influence ranking even with money, because we have like we use this like web of trust thing, which is like if I know Alex and Alex knows Jake, then I have a relationship with Jake through Alex, and so
it's a good thing. It keeps the connections local, which is very important.
Yeah, you do want that.
It's very Bitcoin based.
Yeah,
it's very which is good. But ultimately, I think the reason why like X and other platforms have such a large engagement, such a large user base, and so many people posting, is because they incorporate every single topic under the sun. How do we get to that? How are y'all getting to that point? And do you have interest in getting to that point?
Yeah, I don't think X and these other platforms have a lot of users and engagement because they cover a lot of topics. I believe that's mostly a result of them existing for a long time, and network effects tend to balloon, snowball. They compound, and we haven't existed for very long, and we have to determine how you get from the kind of very early like seed stage that we're in with the community and begin that snowballing effect. And usually how you do that is you focus very narrowly on a particular community and you build something good enough that people in that community love, and then eventually you begin, once I think of it like a fire. Like you really don't want to you don't want to try to burn a log. What you want to try to burn is, something kind of small and make the fire really hot, then add gradually larger pieces of wood.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how you get to a huge bonfire that is X or whatever. So that's kind of the approach you take to build a network effect. Is you don't start like wide, you start deep. And so we're starting deep with Bitcoin stuff, and hopefully we'll be able to expand out.
How long has it been around for?
It's like 3 years this year.
So you started during the bull market in 21?
Yeah, right at the end of it, yeah.
Oh, okay. So you started, that's a good time to start.
Yeah, it was a great time to raise money. The few of the first Bitcoin funds started appearing in that time. And, and we were like one of the first Lightning companies, really. And so we did
and there was a real need for it back then, because in 2021 you were in peak clown world censorship industrial complex. This was before Elon Musk bought X. It was when you could get banned on social media for saying something like as stupid as there are only two genders, or saying that maybe I don't want to get a COVID shot because I don't think it's working very well, or because of the plethora of potential side effects that I don't want to, experience, or because I don't want a QR code with my health to be shown every time I have to go to the grocery store. I don't really like the direction that society is taking us through that vein. People would ban you, deplatform you, lower your visibility, do all types of crazy stuff. I could be wrong, but I feel like with platforms like Nostr and like Stacker News, because it's well, Stacker News, you're using your Nostr, right? But like Nostr is public-private key.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how anybody can ban you from Nostr unless they have or limit your visibility unless they have your private key, which you're not sharing.
Yeah, I think it's definitely true. A platform like Nostr, your identity is in your own possession, so no one can take away your identity. In most cases, but this probably won't be the case in the near future. In the future, other people are hosting your data, and they can deplatform you for views that they don't like, they don't want you to hold, but you can spread out your data across
multiple platforms.
Yeah.
Is there a threat of that happening on Stacker News or with Nostr?
Definitely on Stacker News, it's centralized. So, and your identity is not in your control. We don't take down any content, but we theoretically could. So we do not have the same censorship guarantees. While we plan to decentralize, we currently are not.
How would you decentralize?
A Nostr model is doable. We're mostly focused on the economics part right now, because that's where I think there are more unsolved problems, and there are, Nostr has tens of millions of dollars in it and hundreds of devs in it.
Yeah.
But no one's really working, I think, to solve economic problems on the internet. And within these specific problems, these community problems. And so that's why I'm focused on that. But we could port Stacker News on top of Nostr at some point, and that is the plan. Although we'd have to do quite a bit of work to migrate the economics onto Nostr, because it natively.
Because my Nostr is connected to my Stacker News.
It is.
So if theoretically you were to deplatform, if you were to get a bunch of calls from the Trump administration, I don't think you would.
Yeah.
But if you were to get that, and then let's say we go Democrat and they become super fascistic, what would that mean? And you say we should ban this Alex Stranger guy's account. We don't really like what he's saying. We don't like what he's been doing. He's spreading disinformation. These conspiracy theories are hurting our bottom line. If my thing is connected, if my Stacker News is connected to my Nostr, and you deactivate my Stacker News, how would that look? What would that look like?
Yeah, well, on Stacker News, you can cross-post to Nostr. So anything you post on Stacker News, you can also simultaneously post to your Nostr. So all that data, if say we got pressured in some way to deplatform you, that content would survive and would still be yours, and that couldn't be deplatformed.
On Nostr, the Nostr content, right?
The Nostr content.
Yes.
Yeah, the stuff. But for the stuff on Stacker News, if you look at, I've been paying a lot of attention to this because it's super relevant to me. But if you look at the deplatformings and things that have happened on X and Facebook and stuff, they're usually not imposed by law. It is the threat is that if you do not cooperate with the government, they will stop supporting your enterprise internationally when other countries come after you. And so that's why they end up caving, is because you get threats from like the EU that they are going to ban X in the EU. And then, the previous owners of Twitter were like, well, we don't want that to happen, so we'll do what the government says, and then they can fight for us in the whatever parliaments in the EU, and we'll maintain our business there, which is probably like 50% of their income or something.
Yes.
It's an economic threat, which causes people to censor, but they can't cause, the government cannot force X to remove people, because there are no laws supporting that.
No, but they could also say, okay, well, you don't have to comply with us, but we can really heavily audit you next time taxes come around.
Mm-hmm.
We could do Operation Choke Point 2.0. We could if you're protected because you're Elon Musk and you're worth $200 billion on paper, probably more so. Maybe you're protected, but you're developed. Maybe we start coming after everybody who works for you. Maybe we start going top down and really making things really difficult for anybody that decides to work at X, and then people just through self-preservation flee to other companies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they definitely could do that, and they make it hard for you to do business. That's the way they enforce these bans.
Yes.
Yeah, and so they definitely could do that.
They could do that, and I think that's why that's why companies like Nostr are coming out, and I think it's a lot harder to deplatform somebody's Nostr, because if it's a public-private key, I don't think they can. There's no physical way on Nostr, right, to hack somebody's account, is there?
No, I mean your identity is in your own possession. So you're responsible for it. You can lose it, but no one can take your private key away from you. At least the government can't take your private key away from you by telling a Nostr relay, hey.
No, but could the head of the relay take it away from you, or could that guy Will, who runs the company, take it away?
No, Will doesn't run the company. He runs one relay and one client.
All right.
Yeah. So no, he couldn't take your identity away from you on Nostr, because your identity on Nostr is in your own possession.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's cool. More people should be using that.
They definitely should, but people, again, as you were saying, X and all of these other platforms are huge, and network effects really matter.
Yeah.
They make a huge difference when someone's deciding what social network to join, because they, people want to go to the place where everyone is. That's why big cities get bigger, because people want to go where other people are.
This is true. It's a snowball.
Yes, snowball.
So how do you feel about the election?
I'm usually pretty apolitical, but I'm hopeful that the government will change course quite a bit, because I think we're pretty messed up right now. I think of it kind of like a blob. There's a podcaster or a personality online called Mike Benz that I really like a lot.
Oh, the cyber guy. Yeah, I like the guy too.
Yeah, he's a great guy. So
awesome.
I've been following him a lot, and so I'm really concerned about that, like the momentum of the blob, and getting in the way and just stopping the blob from doing blob things.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I like what happened. Right, I like the fact that independent media is taking over legacy news. I feel legacy news is like the Catholic Church in the 1400s. I've said that a bunch of times. I talked on the Walker's Titcoin podcast about that. Titcoin maximalist right here.
Titcoin?
The Bitcoin podcast. Walker, the guy who
Walker, the guy who does the videos with his wife.
Yeah.
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 Oh, yeah.
The Bitcoin the Titcoin.
Oh, I didn't know that's what it was.
Yeah, it's called Titcoin podcast.
Okay.
Or something. So I'm a Titcoin maximalist. Is the joke.
See.
Anyway. I brought that up to him about how legacy media is like the Catholic Church in the 1400s, just like the legacy political system and all this stuff. And I think it's really good that a lot of very radical positive things seem, whether they happen or not, they're being talked about and they're becoming mainstreamed and streamlined into the public consciousness. That is a really good thing. I think it helps society. It creates a more freer and open way for all of us to live. But what I am concerned about is this kind of becoming like a trap. And, now that Trump's in office, now that Elon is running X, because Elon opened things up and fought back pretty effectively against the censorship industrial complex, a lot of people who are concerned with censorship might wind up getting complacent and just happily just post on X for the next 4 years, instead of understanding that, well, Elon buying this company and allowing speech and helping Trump get into office, and this Doge commission and putting Kennedy in charge of HHS and Tulsi in charge of DNI, all this stuff, really good stuff. I love it, but it's a Band-Aid on a wound. It's a bridge, but this bridge is only useful if you choose to cross the bridge. And there's got to be I think this is the most important time now, especially in these next 4 years, to try to get as many people as possible while also using X and posting on X because it's a huge platform and Elon's awesome and what he did has been really great and revolutionary. But I think this is a perfect time to like kind of segue and lightly educate people to migrate into other platforms in addition to using X.
Yeah, I think that's, and I think I like the general. I like to think about this in terms of Bitcoin because I tend to think about Bitcoin even more than I think about other things. But I see the same problem happening with Bitcoin, where people get complacent and it gets easy for Bitcoin, and then people are comfortable with their Bitcoin in an ETF. They're comfortable with their Bitcoin on Coinbase because they're like, the government is friendly to Coinbase. Why would they have to go after Coinbase? And why would Coinbase have problems if the government is friendly to them? Their business is just going to keep growing. I can keep my money there. Why do we really need to ensure Bitcoin's that decentralized if we can just run the servers or we can mine in the United States and they'll always be friendly to it? And so I think about what you're saying with regard to Bitcoin, where a friendly administration makes people complacent, and complacency is actually the biggest risk to not only Bitcoin but these other platforms
just to freedom in general.
Freedom in general, yeah. Because really you need to, especially when we're talking about technological freedom, you really need that pressure to cause, that necessity. People create that necessity from the government's pressures, and or that it creates that necessity, and then people get creative and come up with solutions to escape the controls.
Yeah, my one hope is that I hope like the political left starts embracing this stuff now, even though just out of pure paranoia about what they think Trump will do. Even though I don't think Trump is like a dictator or fascist or any of that stuff, I hope that these people, at least in thinking that, help make the world more decentralized by migrating to those types of platforms. I think that would actually be a really good thing.
Yeah, I mean, I know we've seen some exodus from X to Blue Sky.
Which is
I think they hit like 21 million.
And then they've been reporting everybody because they're such fucking crybabies that like you say anything that a moderator doesn't like, they'll just ban you for the stupidest fucking reasons ever, and you're going to see firsthand in real time that this platform is going to crash and burn as a result.
Yeah, the platform isn't actually decentralized.
Yeah,
that's kind of what you're seeing, at least right now. I think they promise to decentralize some components, but no one can really see a path for Blue Sky decentralizing some of the things that are currently
no, especially because all these hardcore left-wing corporate neoliberal activists are all joining it. And if it gets decentralized, then it no longer becomes their own echo chamber. It becomes what everybody else wants. And what everybody wants seems to be kind of in line with what Elon Musk and Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and Joe Rogan and Vivek Ramaswamy and RFK Jr. have been kind of saying for the past few years.
Yeah. I think they're probably. I don't see them decentralizing it. I don't see much desire to go beyond the theater of decentralization, which is them saying that eventually, or that they can't censor you. Meanwhile, they're censoring any political views that they don't like.
So they're not censoring, but they're letting the moderators censor.
I don't know. Exactly.
That's what I think it is. Like, and they did that with like Mastodon was like similar or something like that, from what I heard. They tried to do something like.
Well, they're federated. I think that is kind of what Blue Sky is going for. Federated means that you have. Well, it's not like truly decentralized in terms of like a mesh. If you think of like a fishnet and all the little intersections, those are like the people on the network. That would be true decentralization. But a federation is more like, you have like a board of directors at a company. You have 12 of them or something. And so those board of directors have a lot of power.
Yeah, it's Bitcoin versus shitcoin in real time.
Yeah,
you're seeing
proof of stake versus proof of work.
Yeah. And it's literally why Ethereum and all these other coins are total fucking dog shit, because you see that model in play out in real life, and you're like, nah, I want nothing to do with that. This is horrendous. Why am I supporting this? And I think people are going to kind of realize that very slowly, and then very quickly. I think that's kind of what's going to happen. Remember Tribal Social was another one?
I don't.
The guy from Occupy Democrats made this stupid like woke left wing echo chamber app called like Tribal, which is like the same exact thing. They're like, oh, my views aren't the predominating views on the social media platform, and then they blame disinformation or whatever it is, or Russia hacking, or fascism, or Nazism, or something stupid and absurd, instead of the fact that their ideas are terrible. And then they migrate to this echo chamber, and then anybody who disagrees in any capacity with like this prevailing thought could just get banned arbitrarily by some moderator, or some guy in charge of a small governing body, and then you just literally wind up eating yourself. And you're just seeing like how get woke go broke actually works.
Yeah, I mean, I think you had the same. I mean, it wasn't just the left that created their own social platforms. The right did too. But they all created them centralized, and so it's more or less the promise.
Yes, like Rumble.
Yeah, it's a promise of no censorship rather than like a guarantee technologically that you can't be censored.
We're not there yet. Even Nostr is not fully there. There are.
No.
Because what are the like? How could something like Nostr still be censorious?
Well, I mean, most of the relays are censored. So like running a relay is expensive, and it's storing a lot of data and doing a lot of work.
Okay.
So there are only so many people that are going to do that voluntarily for free,
Okay.
at a cost to themselves. And so they could be those relays could stop hosting data, stop doing that, and most people would lose most of their content on Nostr because they're storing them with those few people that are storing most of the notes right now. And so that's how it happened right now. It's like there are too few people actually participating and doing the expensive hard part on the network. And so if those people start censoring, then people get censored. But there are mitigations there are plans and hopes that Nostr can design things into the protocol to mitigate that risk. But I'm also not the most sophisticated Nostr dev. I'm more familiar with it than most people, but
I'm not a computer person at all. I'm kind of like picking your brain and trying to learn as much as I can.
Yeah. So I can give you this high level overview. But
no, you talked like I wear a mask alone in my car, because that the people listening to this podcast are not going to be like sophisticated computer experts. So it's like the simplest first grade language is the best.
Okay. Yeah. Well. People are running servers for other people to put data on. People are running computers for other people to put data on, and running those computers is expensive. And if those people do not, you only want to spend $1,000 per month to host other people's data for so long, and then you might choose not to, or maybe you start serving ads, or maybe you become a corporation yourself, and then get the pressures that we're talking about to start censoring.
What are the benefits of running a relay, though?
It's mostly good feelings.
Oh,
good
just for the
vibes.
community. You're doing it for the community.
Yeah, you're doing it for the.
Is it really a G a month to run a relay?
If you're one of these big ones, yeah. Like it was like 18 months ago, I was talking to the guy who runs Nostr Band, and they basically try to collect all notes on Nostr. And at that point, he was saying, I think it was something like it was growing a terabyte a month of data, which is a lot of data. That's like. That's like a single computer, like a really beefy computer with a very large hard drive.
Wow.
A week he was adding, and it might even be worse now. But so that just gets really expensive, and then you're serving data to more and more people, and it just gets more and more expensive.
A lot of energy costs.
Energy isn't so intense. It's just you're hosting in like an AWS or one of these clouds, Google Cloud or something, and they charge a lot for hard drives and for bandwidth and all that stuff, all the computing resources.
I mean, if you run a relay, you probably get more visibility, though, and you might get people to send you more sats for your content, though. Would that be kind of like the trade-off?
Yeah, in some cases, some of these relays are gated by payments, so you'll pay a monthly payment to them to host your data, and yeah, so that's a model that people seem to be using, and we might see more of that. There's also companies like we have like Primal, Fountain, Nostr Band. A lot of these are like venture-backed companies that have an external incentive to host your data for like they're planning to make money eventually from hosting your data.
Fountain's cool.
Yeah,
I started putting this podcast on Fountain.
Cool. Have you got any stats yet?
I got 400 from when I had my episode of Parker Lewis or something like that.
Sweet.
Yeah. But I don't know how to widen the listening, like how to get more people to start listening on Fountain.
I think if you just convince your listeners to download Fountain and stream you sats on it, that like at the end of your episodes or maybe at the beginning, like the best listening experience is on Fountain, because you can send me sats and you can send me and then you read their messages maybe at the end of it. I don't know if you've seen this on Citadel Dispatch, but what's his name? It's not Marty, it's the other guy.
Odell
will read the boosted comments from Fountain on his podcast.
I haven't gotten a single comment though, I don't think so.
Okay, well, I'll get some. If any stackers watch this, we'll get they'll boost you on.
Good.
on
I'm
Fountain.
excited about it. Yeah, no, and I want to figure out like also how do I boost people on Fountain? Do I just like because it says do you have to boost it like per minute or per like when it comes to?
So you can stream per minute, and I think a minimum of 10 sats per minute.
That means I send 10 sats per minute, or I
you're
receive?
sending 2 sats per minute to the podcaster.
All right.
Yeah, and then you can do a boost where you select any amount that you want and attach a comment to it, and the podcaster will see it in addition to seeing they got paid, and they'll be more likely to read it and possibly respond. Because they got paid.
So I get it now. So somebody like Walker, I'll just send him like 50 sats.
Yep.
And then I'll say, yo, great fire episode, great job, or something. Then they'll say, wow, the Alex Stranger, shout out Alex Stranger commenting on my post.
He sent me a nickel.
Yes, send him, send him 2 nickels. That'd be really cool. You know what I mean? Like, okay, so that's what I think I'll start doing.
Yeah.
Just send, allocate a budget of 50 sats or 100 sats per month. Because I only have, I don't want to spend my external Bitcoin funds on this, right? I'll just, whatever is in my Fountain, set a little budget, like 10% or of whatever's in my Fountain budget to just give to people. And then just, the more it grows, the more I just give more money in my Fountain to people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You have a little circular economy going.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
That is cool.
It's a cool idea.
That is a really cool. That's the best
Fountain
idea.
is like Stacker News, but for podcasts.
But it's all audio, no video.
It's all audio. They might do video. They do. They currently do music, I think, as well as
That's awesome.
podcasts.
All right, well maybe my rap songs could go on Fountain.
Oh, I didn't know you rapped, but
Yeah, I have rap songs. I can. Well, you're at Pleb Lab, right?
Yeah.
I'll drive you back to Pleb because we have a concert after this is over with, and I'll play my songs for you. You'll like it.
Okay.
It should be in a Just World. They should be the number one.
I think I'll determine whether I like it or not. But
oh, no, whatever. I tell people sometimes to just pay according to how much they like my music, right? And I'm just like, that's how we do it.
Oh.
Sometimes, and then I'm just like, oh, I don't care.
Sometimes you give free rides then.
Once in a while, I have people like, man, this is fucking terrible. Whatever. Like people got pissed because I have a Trump song.
Oh well, yeah. You tend to be pretty polarizing.
Yes,
you lean into it though,
bro. Well, yeah, less so than in the past.
Really?
Yeah, because everything else is this is all like mainstream thought now. Like we're winning. Like the culture shifted so much that now everyone's just like, yeah, I agree with this. Like it's not even controversial. So
are you gonna go left? What are you gonna do? How are you gonna maintain your dominance?
Well, hopefully, we can not have New World Order full-blown tyranny, and I don't have to do this anymore, and I can just host podcasts and go speak on panels and give pedicab rides and work out and fish, and not have to worry about using a central bank digital currency or have a QR code with my health. And that's kind of why I started doing this. And if if that winds up not materializing, and we actually get the America that I thought existed when I was a kid, then I'm happy riding a tricycle.
Okay, so your views are going to get more esoteric. You're going to get more into the weeds of specific problems. You're going to show up at the city council and talk about CBDCs rather than
potentially. So I actually have an idea for this is unrelated to what we're talking about, but what I'm going to start doing is go to places that don't accept cash and refuse to pay with credit card, and videotape it and be and only pay with cash because I believe in financial privacy, and just really go off and why don't you accept? How come you don't accept cash? What's the reason for it? That's kind of fucked up. It's kind of isn't that kind of fucked up for your tips? What if somebody's unbanked? What if somebody's homeless? Don't you guys not have progressive values? You know what a central bank digital currency is? Do you think that we should normalize this? No, it's not. It's really counterproductive to what it means to live in America, and it's really bad. It has a really horrible effect, cascading effect on the social consequences, the social contracts of our society. I don't want to participate in it, and neither should you. And here's $20 for this coffee. I'm going to give you $20 in cash, and if you can give me that coffee, that'd be great. The whole $20 is yours if you give me this coffee. This way you're not an asshole, you're not being a dick, and you're helping the person who serves you make a really good tip while filming how bad CBDCs are and how you should normalize this.
Yeah, I could see that. You're a bit ahead of the issue because we don't really have CBDCs yet, but I think that could be really interesting for you to
get ahead of it now. Do it now, so we don't go there at all, right?
Yeah,
do it now before.
Yeah, you'll be ahead again. That'll be good.
I'd be ahead. CBDCs are a really big threat, and dollar-backed stablecoins could be the CBDCs that we don't even realize are coming down the pipe.
Yeah, I think if you look at the popularity of them, they're basically CBDCs, except they're just run by more or less government contractors. I mean, they're not
private companies that are getting cozy positions within the Trump administration, or they're friendly with the Trump administration.
That's what I mean.
And it's not good.
Yeah, I mean,
problem.
Yeah, it's not. They're not exactly private companies. I mean, it's like Lockheed Martin as a private company. That's what eventually they're going to become if it keeps going, and then they are effectively CBDCs.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see the Trump administration banning cash, I think that like cash will always exist.
Well, not. I mean, so long as maybe Trump is in power, but.
Well, I don't see like governments banning cash, but what will probably happen is more and more companies will just refuse to accept cash. You know what I mean? And they'll say we're only taking this new, we're accepting these stable coins only. And then if you like have a low social credit score, like you didn't get data in your vaccines, your kid didn't get the puberty blockers, you spoke out against the latest world that we're trying to get into. You know what I mean? You don't like you don't think it's a good idea that Juan from Venezuela, who came here last week, gets to go fight in this forever war for citizenship. You know, you start speaking out about that. Oh man, sorry, your funds are frozen, right? And then there's no alternative way for these people to accept payments. Like I can see that kind of turning into that, right?
Yeah,
that's a problem.
Yeah. I mean, you could see how there might be economic forces like levied against people in a world where the money is centrally controlled, even more so than it is now.
Yeah, Bitcoin does fix this.
Yeah.
No matter how centralized Bitcoin gets, if you send a transaction with Bitcoin, you're pretty immune to that aspect from happening.
I don't know.
If that makes sense. Like
it matters how centralized Bitcoin gets.
No, but I mean like like from Coinbase, because Coinbase can control like whether or not they accept your transaction. But like if I have like a hardware wallet, you know, I can still send Bitcoin on a hardware wallet to somebody and not have the transaction blocked, right? If I have my own node.
Well,
or is that like okay? Tell me if I'm wrong, because I want to hear this.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's not much of a risk because there isn't much censorship happening, or Bitcoin isn't that centralized.
Yeah.
But it could theoretically get to a point where, because right now the centralization risk in Bitcoin is primarily with mining pools. And so mining pools, what they do is they aggregate, you know, people hear about these computers doing these math problems to mine Bitcoin. They aggregate all of these computers together under a centralized pool, and those have gotten quite big, to the point where we're at risk of censorship. One of the bigger pools censoring people, and so that could run away potentially.
So if a bigger pool censors you, how do you stop that?
Well, right now there's some. You can get smaller pools to potentially mine your transaction. It might just take longer for your transaction to go through, but you can imagine where it gets to the point where the mining pools are so centralized and so big that
they won't mine. They'll only mine a transaction that's KYC'd or something.
Yeah.
So they only mine a transaction that's KYC'd, but they can't. But like, if it has your name on it and someone's like, we don't want this guy participating, what are they going to like say? Okay, Alex Stranger, we're just not going to process this transaction.
That's a centralization risk, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the same if Bitcoin is centralized, it faces all the same problems that you would have using Visa. Bitcoin is not centralized right now.
But it's not the mining, but the mine. Okay, so it's the node operators that approve the transaction. So if people just all run their own nodes, how's that?
Well, no, because the miners make the blocks.
Okay.
The people who run nodes, they
validate.
They relay the transactions. They validate. But if it doesn't get, like, if you're buying a coffee.
Yeah.
And the network is centralized and let's say it's operated by Visa and they don't like Alex Stringer.
Yeah.
You might be able to get the transaction in the merchant's mempool on their node such that they see it and it's a valid transaction, but it never gets mined into a block because Visa's like, no, I will not put this transaction in a block. So that's the risk of mining getting centralized.
Okay. But luckily, a lot of states are passing right to mine laws, and you have people like Dennis Porter coming in.
It's not a today problem. It's a problem for people like me that are like very focused on the technical stuff and really concerned about decentralization. But this is not a problem today.
It's a 30-year from now problem.
We're talking theoretical.
Or a 10-year from now, or a 5-year from now problem.
It's a problem that we never need to get complacent on.
Okay.
Like it's never solved. Basically, we always need to be fighting.
Never solve. You're right. You'll never solve it, no matter what.
Yeah.
Even in 140 years, in every block, it's mined.
We need to always be fighting it. We need to always be exerting a pressure against centralization because there will be always a pressure to centralize.
And something like Bitcoin is not the be-all end-all thing to fix everything, but it is a way to. It's made this centralized new world order that the Klaus Schwab and the Davos class have tried to implement. It makes it a lot harder for them to implement. It's definitely set the clock back on the New World Order, I think, for decades.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It made governments do not have as much economic control as a result of Bitcoin existing, and as Bitcoin gets more and more successful, they will continue to lose economic
Yes.
control, which is probably the biggest control lever that they have.
And if they try to buy everything and try to like monopolize and have, you know, the lion's share of the net worth, it just means that regular people like us wind up growing so much in wealth that these people just lose their influence anyway, because there'll just be a newer group of people with there'll be a newer moneyed class that kind of control things.
It's possible.
If
but
that makes
but
maybe
I
I'm
think,
wrong. But
I think rich Bitcoiners probably behave like rich fiat people in the end. So you never want
to even get there.
You don't want a ruling class. You just don't want one.
You don't want to. It's true.
Whether it's Bitcoiners or not.
In the Torah, they talk about this. In the Bible, it's like there are people that have begged for a king, and God's like, no, you do not want a king. You do not want a king. You do not want a king. And it's the same thing. You do not want. And that's why it's like, yeah, I love that Trump won, and I love that Elon Musk runs X. I think it's a big step in the right direction. But a lot of people are making the mistake of wanting Trump to save them, of wanting Trump to just solve their problems, issue everything by executive order, confirm all these people, dismantle these motherfuckers, right?
Yeah.
And they're really hoping that Trump just does it. But honestly, be careful what you wish for, because you give yourself a king and you give somebody that much power, it might be good for a few years because the guy who has the power aligns with you.
Yeah.
But eventually that guy dies, or that guy's term runs out.
Yep.
What about the next guy? Do you trust the next guy to like actually hold those same values?
Yeah.
There are a ton of concern heading into this administration that very few people, myself included, are talking about, because they are not pressing, they are not immediate, and to me, Donald Trump is not somebody I feel threatened by to actually put those concerns into practice. But we should get ahead of this now so it doesn't happen 4 years from now.
We should definitely be.
Does that make sense?
Always protective of our freedoms, regardless of whether we think someone is watching out for them or not. In my opinion. So.
Agreed. I fully agree.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm really glad we're doing this, because I think this is awesome that this is coming up.
Yeah. Absolutely. This podcast or Trump, you mean?
No, like us doing this podcast together.
Yeah.
To get this more out there, because, like I said, dude, everybody's like happy, everybody's celebrating, everyone thinks we won, or we're gonna win, or we're about to win, or we're so back. You see those memes? We're so back. Everyone's doing the Trump dance in the end zone. Are we back though? Like everything's more centralized than ever, and maybe like you're not feeling the effects of it, but you're still more centralized. Someone like Elon Musk, or David Sacks, the guys in the PayPal Mafia. Yeah, I like them a lot better than the other people, but like it's never a good thing when such few people have so much control and access to whatever your data is.
Yeah, I don't mean to infect you with my pessimism, but
No, it's true.
but yeah. I mean, I think you do need to be. I think you just need to be vigilant forever. Really.
Forever.
Forever about these kinds of things. Doesn't
Forever.
matter who's in charge or.
Yeah, you can never look up to politicians. You're like, hey, I appreciate what you're doing. You're helping my life improve, and this is awesome, right? And if you're doing a good job and you're governing according to like the will of the people, you deserve respect and admiration for that, and you deserve. And maybe I don't make fun of you as much as I have in the past with other politicians, but you're still a politician. You know what I mean? You're still somebody that needs to be held into account. And the way in which you're holding people into account with the Trump administration is going to be a lot different than the way you hold people into account with a Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, Gavin Newsom, neoliberal WEF Davos class administration.
Yeah. I think people who align with Trump and his administration's values.
They seem to have our values, which is good.
Yeah, a lot more Bitcoiner. You see him exhibit a lot more values of Bitcoiners than Kamala does. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very important.
Yes.
Very important. I think that the one everyone thought that like, oh, Trump is going up because Bitcoin's going up because Trump won. I think that's an amateur hour mindset. I think Bitcoin would have gone up no matter who won the election. It would have just gone up for a different set of reasons.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know about that. It seemed very decisively up. It seemed very much it like didn't go up until he announced it was called for him. But
yes,
really
but I think that net, like at the end of the day, like net, it goes up a lot. Maybe it goes up a little more because Trump wins, because of the greed and the economic opportunity from Trump and being a Bitcoin president, and the strategic reserves and nation state adoption would go up more. But it would still go, like you'd still see a huge increase no matter what, because Bitcoin always goes up after elections. One guarantee, no matter who gets in office, is the government is going to spend an absurd amount of money. No matter what happens, these studies would still be coming out and being talked about on X about like the $50 million for transgender monkeys for one thing, or the effects of driving high, or Thai ladyboys and their suicide rate. Like these studies are absurd, right? That they're conducting, and like the way and this is what we're spending a lot of our money on. Well, like I don't know about you, but the more people learn about that, the less they're gonna have faith in our fiat system. What are they gonna want? What are they gonna want? An exit strategy. So people would still just be buying Bitcoin, but just for a different set of reasons.
Yeah, I just think that would happen. I just wonder if that would happen slower.
It would happen
really
a little
know.
slower.
I don't. Yeah.
Like, I think that Bitcoin would have dropped initially at Kamala winning. Like, I think it would have been like a 10 or 20% drop when Kamala won, and then you would just see it would be like a COVID type crash where it would just start going right back up, because then there would be another reason why you would want Bitcoin.
Yeah.
That's what I think would have happened. But I think that like the price of Bitcoin would be going up no matter who won. It's just a matter of a high Bitcoin price just gets you more in a Trump administration versus what a Kamala administration would get you.
Yeah, I don't really know. I think other people speak better to these issues than I personally would. But I feel Kamala was very hostile, and her administration was very hostile to Bitcoin. So that's, I think that's probably what, like they were putting a lot of pressure on Bitcoin, and when she wasn't elected, I think that pressure released, and that's kind of when people got a little more comfortable.
Yeah, like I said, it's going up more because Trump got elected, but it still would go up considerably no matter who wins.
Yeah.
Because faith in our institutions is still at an all-time low. No more so than our financial institution. And Bitcoin, the price of Bitcoin does correlate with the lack of faith in your financial institutions. When Biden won, the price of Bitcoin skyrocketed too, when Biden won.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, it was like in 2020, it was like 15K or 16K or something like that, or when maybe 14 before the election, and then it closed the year at like 29. You know what I mean? So it doubled since
the
election.
I might not have been in Bitcoin yet, but yeah, I think maybe that is just, maybe it's when certain people, when they have confidence or they feel like the future is more predictable, maybe they are
more willing to buy, and
willing to buy.
The end result of an election echoes the statement of things being more predictable.
Yeah,
and more stable.
Yeah, they'll be able to predict the future a little better.
Yeah, I think that's what it is too, and I think that like institutions and big investment firms do whatever they can to suppress the price to get the lion's share of whatever asset they think is a superior asset. And the more you suppress the price, especially in election year, the more that price is going to wind up mushrooming. That's a natural order of things. So that is my my philosophy. I think it would have gone up no matter what, but the overall direction of the country and the overall consciousness of the American people is operating on a much higher level of truth-seeking now than had Kamala won. And we just cannot get complacent thinking we're back because like America's restored and we're like celebrating patriotic values and people are doing Donald Trump's dance now, and you know what I mean, and and my content is getting more boosted versus more censored. Like, that's all great, and I love that and I appreciate that, but ultimately, like, it's only a stepping stone to actually get more self-sovereignty in the future.
Yeah, hopefully it leads to more self-sovereignty.
That's what I think.
Yeah. I'm not. Yeah, I'm super pessimistic about these things because I just like being never getting complacent. I think that's the biggest risk to everything.
Don't get greedy, and there's gonna be so much fucking greed.
Yep.
How do you feel about all the fucking noise? You know what's crazy, actually? There's been very little noise on X about crypto while we're at an all-time high, compared to like March. There's no fucking noise.
Yeah, I think people are just still hungover from the election. Maybe that is what it is.
But like in when bull markets are at their peak top, right? Everyone has a new meme point to shill. Everyone's taking stupid risks. Everyone's being an extra next level degenerate. Yeah. Everyone's telling people about the next coin and the next thing that they got to buy and whatever it is. It's really quiet.
Well, I just think the Bitcoin community is super fractured right now because you have like some Bitcoiners still on X. You have a lot of other Bitcoiners on Nostr. You have a lot of the devs are now on Delving Bitcoin, which is run by one of the core devs. You have Stacker News, which we cross over with all of these other platforms generally, and our users use these other ones.
Okay.
But it's fractured, and I feel like that's why you don't have like just blowout memes and stuff on X anymore.
No, I'm not talking about Bitcoin though. I'm talking about like in general. You can tell when like a market's overheated, based not on Bitcoin memes but on shitcoin memes.
Oh well, shitcoins happen later in the cycle.
That's what I'm saying. So I think like we're early. Like it's gonna go up a lot. What I'm trying to say is that like it's been really quiet because you're just not seeing any shitcoinery happening on X, and you saw a lot of that happen in like March and April and in February,
right.
And then it marked kind of a local top.
Yeah.
And so one thing I've noticed that I'm just not seeing that. So I think that there's room.
Yeah, there's room. I suppose there's room based on that metric alone. It's early in a bull run. Yes.
You're early in a bull run.
Yeah.
You're early in a bull run, and people, my view on Bitcoin is that it's a way to improve your life, and you'll never time the market. And anytime you want to make a life improvement, you pick a target that you want to make your different life improvements on, and you just make a certain life improvement depending on whatever the target is, and then be happy that your life is improving.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it.
Yeah, Bitcoin is just a way for you to save your money more durably into the future. That's kind of the way I personally think about it. And, and then so it's about as boring as a bank account outside of...
It's the safest, most boring way to invest. Smash the green button no matter what the price is every week.
Well,
a little bit every week.
Some people are really sensitive to volatility, so it's probably not boring for them. I know they get really upset when the price swings around.
Yeah, because it's because... I'm not going to call people stupid. That's mean, and I don't think that's productive.
Yeah.
I think it's just comes from a lack of understanding, and it's like a fear-based mindset where you're already like worried. You're so afraid of like losing everything that you have, or you're afraid of like, people see so many crashes that have happened in the market that have just fiat stock crashes that have really destroyed people. People see a lot of other cryptocurrencies crash. They conflate the meme coins and the crypto market with Bitcoin. With that, and there's no financial literacy taught in school. There's no, there's like, especially on mainstream news, there's really like no legacy news, not mainstream because it's not mainstream anymore. So, like on legacy news, there's no real discussion on like how money works in a way that like benefits humanity, because then it takes away from the market share of the banks and the corporatocracy. And so people will see these huge dips and just think it's really volatile and really unsafe and really risky. And there's just the resources to learn are just not there. Like I have this sign and people will make fun. I give rise to it and people make fun of me for having that sign.
Oh, because you use Blue Wallet or some other?
No, just the 25% discount for Bitcoin.
Oh,
like what's Bitcoin? I don't do Bitcoin. And they'll just be making fun of you for it. Wow. Staying at these nice hotels, and I'm just like, listen, man, I'm just giving you an opportunity to pay less money if you would like to.
They really make fun of you?
People, I know, right?
That's weird.
People make fun of me for it, and I'm just like, look. Or they'll say, I don't do Bitcoin. And I'm like, you don't do money? Well, I don't understand. It's like the weirdest, like snobbiest response to something like that,
Well, I think they just feel, I think the problem with Bitcoin, the big difference between Bitcoin and nearly any other thing that people put money in as far as savings is you're trusting computers 100%. And most people are not familiar with computers. So like you go to a bank, yes, it's all digital and stuff.
But there's a teller. There's a human.
There's still human beings in the loop there. There's always a human you can go to and ask questions to or make a complaint to or whatever. Bitcoin doesn't have that thing. So I think for a lot of people, that's a huge leap, especially people who aren't like very comfortable digitally. And so I think that's the biggest thing is like they're ignorant and insecure. And so they feel like they need to react.
Or they think that they have to make a large investment. They see how high the price is and they have to make a large investment because they think that's the only way to make the money. And I'm just like, no, dude, it's a small investment strategy, like literally $20 a week. It's a really small, just small investment strategy. Whatever you'd give to a home, whatever you feel comfortable giving away to a homeless guy, just put it into that and save.
Yeah.
And this way you just have an extra way to pay people, an extra way to make a living.
Yeah, I think we'll get.
That's kind of how I explain it.
I think we'll get there. I've stopped trying to explain Bitcoin to people.
I don't explain it. I don't. I think I did it in the beginning because it would help me learn and get a better understanding of this asset and help my mind grow a little more, right? Yeah. And navigate what's going on. I was explaining it more in 2022. Like I was getting so much shit in 22 for like all those signs and talking about because it was just like plummeting that whole year.
Yeah.
And in 23 also. Mm-hmm. But I'm just like, okay, I know what this thing is worth. Just be humble, stack, and just try to get as much as you can and like learn and just be a better human being and keep your emotions and manage your emotions, have a close relationship with God, manage your emotions and understand like that you do things for a purpose and don't get envious and don't get green with envy, right? Don't covet what other people have.
Yep. Yeah. I think it's the right way. I think it's part of I think it's one of the benefits of Bitcoin is that it requires you to emotionally regulate in these ways to deal with some of the volatility and to be, because when you begin understanding it, you go very deep. And you become sort of on the outside, and so you're kind of looking in on the world from the outside. And I think that for a lot of people, that's a very new experience for them. and it's a very, in my opinion, it's a very healthy experience. To maybe see yourself as somewhat of a misfit and understand that maybe most of the people that you maybe saw on the outside that you thought less of, maybe were just misunderstood and they were actually on to something.
They're correct. Yeah, these guys are right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it also gives you a much healthier perspective to analyze real world events.
Mm-hmm.
Because very much like in order to dictate how, because you see so much noise too on X.
Yeah.
And in order to really process whether or not you should take it seriously, I just start looking at markets, right? And so, like the threat of a nuclear war, like Biden authorized long-range missiles to Ukraine, or something like that. Ukraine could use long-range missiles. Let me check the Bitcoin price real quick. Oh, it didn't really move that much. All right, let me check like the DXY. Let me check the price of gold. Oh, gold is shooting up. Should I worry? Well, no, it's in a downward channel, so let's see if it breaks resistance. If it breaks resistance, maybe you worry a little bit, right? Like, so I start thinking about it in those terms. I'm like, oh, well, it hasn't broken resistance yet. Let's see how gold. Let's see what gold does when it's at its resistance level to see if the threat of a nuclear war with Russia is actually serious or it's just noise and a way for people to click fund.
I see. That's cool. I haven't really looked at news that way, but I could imagine that's you're almost using the markets like a prediction market of the macro environment, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I kind of like figured that Trump was going to win based on that too.
The way the stock market was performing, or
no, actually, I wasn't sure because I was going to look at the Russell index because I listen to like Kathy Wood sometimes.
Oh, okay, yeah. She's the one that has all those ETFs, right?
The ARK funds.
Yes.
You're going to laugh at me, but I bought some ARK funds of like a week or so ago.
Oh, a week or so ago. I thought you were going to say when they first came out, but a week or so ago.
No, because it's dropped so much. It's like 20. It's like the ARK genomic revolution.
Okay.
I bought like it's like $400 or $300, like a call option that goes to like April.
Oh.
And I'm like, here's why. Okay, here's my reason for it. This is
right.
not Bitcoin related or anything like that, but
right.
I do think that because of this administration and because of the deregulation and because of the drill baby drill, and because of the idea of government efficiency and because you're going to do a lot less spending. There's going to be more risk-taking in financial markets, and there's going to be more of like the idea that the news narrative is going to be focused on innovation. Whether or not it actually happens, there'll be a big news focus on it.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's like, and if this ETF has dropped so much of its value, when this new administration's coming, and Q1 all these financial markets always perform really well in Q1, especially when there's a new president. It seems like a decent risk-reward thing to kind of like to play with, right?
Yeah, the fund you invested in that was like biotech specifically.
Yeah, it's like CRISPR and these types. Even though I don't like necessarily support the companies, I'm just like financially like this might make like sense to like see where this goes, right?
I see.
And so I'm kind of thinking about that, right? I'm kind of just thinking like, well, what's gonna happen like this next 3 months just in markets in general? I'm like companies that like which companies are going to put Bitcoin on their balance sheets? Which companies already have Bitcoin on their balance sheet? How are they moving right now? What are the stock price? Because and also like understanding Bitcoin and how it works. Like buying stock in fiat terms is stupid. Like measuring the growth in fiat terms is really stupid. We should measure in Bitcoin terms. And I'm like in Bitcoin terms, which companies do I think are going to do really really well in Bitcoin terms? And you like the companies that have Bitcoin on their balance sheet.
Yeah.
Oh, the companies that are going to have the green light to do a whole bunch to like explore a whole bunch of new shit.
Yeah. I'm not super. I mean, I think biotech is really interesting. I think AI will probably unlock a lot of that. I think your intuition about the regulatory environment will probably prove out whether that outperforms a black hole of Bitcoin in terms of like capital absorption.
Well, not forever. It won't obviously forever, right? Like for a forever play, fuck no. That's the stupidest thing to do. But over a 3-month period, right? Like, it's very possible that it'll outperform Bitcoin from now until April.
Yeah, I mean,
From now until April, a lot of that stuff could outperform Bitcoin from now until April. Mm-hmm. Like the mining stocks are probably going to outperform Bitcoin considerably from now until April. I believe that. I'll put that on record.
Okay, well, I guess it's on record. I don't really think about these things. I don't have a bit. It's a bit like a game. Thinking, treating money this way. So
it's fun though.
Yeah,
it makes it fun.
It is fun.
I think it's fun. It makes it fun. And
granted,
fun. You shouldn't be putting most of. I don't think you should put I don't think that's how you should manage your money as a whole.
Yeah.
But if there's a small amount of money that you want to play with and to add more spice to life. And if that stuff helps you become more in tune with current events and what's going on in the world, and makes you forced to be plugged into what's going on around you, there's a positive to that. And I think that when you understand like Bitcoin and measure things in Bitcoin terms, people are going to start over the course of the next 10 or 20 years, they're going to start investing in companies that actually produce value when you start measuring things in Bitcoin terms, whereas if you measure things in fiat terms, you just park your money in literally fucking anything just to protect your purchasing power. And then these companies do their quarterly report earnings every quarter, which just makes it so that you have to just makes it so that the incentive to boost the stock is more important than actually growing the company. And like Jack Mahler's talked about this with Green Candle Investments, my buddy Brandon.
Oh, cool, yeah. Brandon.
So I think that like there's a lot of stuff that I think that the Bitcoin and getting more decentralized, using better, sounder money is going to actually like see so much human flourishing, because people are going to, maybe not now, but very soon in the future, they're going to invest in things that will only appreciate in those terms. The only way something like that could appreciate in those terms is if you're offering value.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely true. I think in a world where
then even though you're playing with fiat stocks, you're still investing in human growth, which is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, absolutely. Investing in other humans is great. That's maybe the best use of money, is to invest in human growth and human flourishing. I think that's the whole point of life in general, is for life to flourish.
Where do you see Stacker News going forward? Like, what are the goals for Stacker News in the next year or so?
So by the end of the year, we'll have transitioned to a non-custodial wallet. That's been a lot of work. That's what we've been spending probably the last year on. And so just making that really good, which is quite challenging because we're communicating with computers we're not in control of, really, is what that entails. So we've been working really hard on that, and we're pretty much done with that. And then after that, we have these things called territories on Stacker News, which are like it's like subreddits.
Yeah.
But they make money. So you can found a territory on Stacker News, and you're through your community, you end up, some of them have started to make money, so they're profitable. So the goal is to make them really profitable, make them like, less kind of close to profitability, right at profitability. We've only had a few that have become profitable, but that's the goal, is to make them really like flourish. And we think that'll help us like grow quite a bit and help us incentivize decentralization, because before we were talking about how expensive it is to run nodes in a decentralized network, and the goal is to make that profitable. And then that's kind of where we'll probably spend the next year or so.
Okay, but so is Lightning custodial? No, Lightning is custodial, right?
Currently, yes.
In general, like the Lightning network is custodial, or is it non?
Well, it doesn't have to be, but the UX is tricky for non-custodial, so most services will use custodial Lightning. Yeah.
But so does that make you KYC free or KYC, or does it not matter?
We're currently not KYC'd, but if you want to be a custodian of U.S. customers and allow them to transfer money to each other, you have to KYC your customers.
So you have to KYC customers for Stacker, or no?
I'm not going to. We're going non-custodial so that we don't have to KYC. But if we stayed custodial legally, we would have
to at some point.
We would have to at some point, and so we are not. We are instead switching to non-custodial.
Because Strike is custodial.
Yes, it is. Strike is custodial. Most of the apps that you're familiar with that have a custodial wallet built into them are KYCing you.
Okay.
Even if you're not really aware of it.
But like Moon and those other ones are not KYC. Like
Moon is non-custodial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the big thing for this administration is while we're embracing Bitcoin, we also protect non-custodial wallets from being able to.
Yeah, what I'd love is like to have more sane laws around what it means to be a money transmitter. Because currently, if I want to custody $1 for you and everyone on Stacker News and allow you guys to transfer it to each other, I need to spend millions of dollars getting licensed in all 50 states, and it takes several years to get licensed in just 80% of them. And then in like New York and a few others, I might never be able to get licensed.
To be a money transmitter, right? Yeah. But you shouldn't have to. You have a company, and people have the opportunity to send money back and forth, and that should be it.
Yeah, below a certain threshold, there shouldn't be concerns around money laundering and other things like that. Like I should be able to store for people $10, and allow them to transfer it to each other. There should be like a minimum floor on that. And similarly with like taxes on spending Bitcoin, that is like another area where
it shouldn't exist. It should not exist.
Ideally, it shouldn't exist, but at the very least, it should. If I'm buying a coffee, I shouldn't be taxed on buying a coffee with Bitcoin. Like there should be like a minimum threshold for that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah. That was really great. Okay, Keyan, how do we get a hold of you?
You can go to stacker.news. That's pretty much it. I spend all of my time there.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your Nostr? You got an X? Just say everything. Come on.
Oh.
Don't be shy.
My X is K00BIDEH, Kubideh, and my Nostr is K00B at stacker.news. But you can find all of that on Stacker News.
Yeah, I just post to Stacker News whenever I tag. Because I try to post whenever I put an episode or do something, I'm like, hey, we're on Stacker News, and I just tag Stacker News on Nostr.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, we have a lot of people who cross-post onto Stacker News because you earn money by getting people onto Stacker News. You earn money when they earn money.
Oh, wow, cool.
Yeah. So if you like refer people and they get paid rewards, we give you 10% of
My
their
friend
rewards.
Alex Rosen catches pedophiles for a living, and it would be really cool if he started posting his catches on Stacker News. He'd probably make a fucking killing.
I mean, if people start zapping them.
They should. I mean, there's a guy to zap. It's the guy who catches pedophiles.
Yes. Yeah, that would be worthy of supporting
Yeah.
financially, for
Yeah,
sure.
the guy who catches pedophiles should get zapped stats. So I should talk about this.
Yeah.
All right, Keyan, thank you so much.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Alex.
it. All right, let's drive you back to Pleb Lab.